All right, well, Bud Foster, like I mentioned before, he is back. Was not sure if he was going to stay on once it was announced that Frank Beamer was retiring towards the end of last season. And, it's just, it's such a great feeling knowing that, one of the top five defensive coordinators, at least in my opinion, in all of college football, is staying with the team, even when, it's pretty clear that he wanted that head coaching job, but obviously he thought enough of Justin Fuente to stay on his staff, which is a great omen for the future. And in terms of the defense's immediate future, there is plenty of reason to be optimistic. Now, Ken Ekinem, the man from Centerville High School, enters his senior year with quite accomplished career to date. Ekinem has had 14 sacks total to his name, although 9.5 of those came during his sophomore year, not during his junior year. So perhaps teams started to figure him out a little bit more. He faced more double teams, had some film on him. But that being said, Ekinem, very, very strong player, is going to be one of the leaders of the defense, entering his third year of starting on the line. I do see Ken Ekinem as one of those guys who will be playing on Sundays, as he will be backed up by Trayvon Hill. Now, some people would argue that in terms of one positional unit being the deepest, defensive tackle just might be that on the defensive side of the ball. You have Woody Barron right now listed as the starting nose tackle. Woody Barron has to date 9 tackles for loss, 8 of which came last season. In his junior year, very talented player. Had 3 sacks. He stands at 6'2", 280, so he's going to play big, and I think he'll bring plenty of punishment. Nigel Williams is a guy who is from Richmond, relatively close to Blacksburg, and he has had 6.5 sacks to his name so far, although he did not record one last year, and he started all 10 of his career starts came as a sophomore, so the redshirt senior is really going to have a point to prove himself along the Hokie line. But the backups are very talented too, with Ricky Walker and Tim Settle. Now, Vinny Mahota is going to be coming in starting for the first time in his career, and he is a big fella at 6'5", 264, and he should bring plenty of pressure to you would hope, to the pass rush to complement Ekinem, try to avoid having the offensive line shift in his direction on blocking assignments. When we're talking about the Mike linebacker, perhaps the best name recognition out of any Virginia Tech defender, now that Kendall Fuller is gone, is Andrew Motuapuaka. What a wonderful phrase, right? So close to Hakuna Matata. Motuapuaka was just, it seemed at times he was living in opposing offenses' backfields, just always back there, putting pressure on the quarterback. He had 4 sacks, totaling 39 yards for loss, 73 tackles, and has 127 tackles to his career, and started in all 11 games he was able to play in, with 15 starts to his name to date. And I really like Matuapuaka's instincts. I'm sure Bud Foster does as well. He's really going to be counted on to be a major leader for the Hokies in his redshirt junior campaign. One of the intriguing position shifts on the defensive side of the ball comes from Mook Reynolds. He's moving to a bit of a linebacker nickel hybrid spot, if you will. He's going to be undersized for that role. He's going to have to play, I guess you could say, bigger than he really is, but he's a tough guy. He is certainly very talented, and he could be one of the X factors for the Hokie defense. When we talk about, looking further into the linebacker spot, Tremaine Edmonds, brother of Terrell Edmonds, is going to be starting at the backer spot, and complementing alongside the whip. But I think the Edmonds brothers are both going to play major parts last year. I really liked what I saw from Terrell Edmonds last year. He broke up 7 passes in his redshirt freshman year campaign, and I like both of those brothers a lot. Like I said, Chuck Clark going to be starting at free safety. He's one of the surprisingly few senior starters in the defensive side of the ball. So it does seem like the defensive unit comes in with a little bit less experience this year in the offensive side, but with Bud Foster coaching them up, they're going to be in great position. And I think experience will pay big dividends at the cornerback spot. Brandon Faison is only a redshirt junior. It feels like he's been at Virginia Tech for so much longer, considering that the best season of his career actually turned out to be his freshman year, when many called him the best freshman cornerback in college football when he had all those interceptions. It's been a very eventful career for him. He's dealt with that devastating knee injury, forcing him out of a whole year of action, but he has remained resilient. Great character guy, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. The same can be said for Adonis Alexander, who is suspended for the opener against Liberty tomorrow, which is certainly disappointing to see. But Alexander just exploded onto the scene in his freshman year. He was being called upon to really take on some quality wide receivers in single coverage. He was left on that island, and time after time he thrived. He finished with 5 picks, got national recognition, and rightfully so. I'm a big fan of Adonis Alexander. Now, another corner who will play a major role not only as a corner, but in special teams as well. Greg Stroman, not the biggest guy standing at 180 pounds, the junior, but he could really take kick returns a long way. I'm happy that Stroman is returning kicks, and do not be surprised if you see him take one or more kick returns back to the house. And when you're talking about special teams a little bit further, Joey Sly, I think, is a quality kicker. He's made some big kicks in excess of 40 yards in his career. Had some shanks, but what college kicker hasn't? But overall, I'm definitely happy to have Joey Sly as the kicker. Should be interesting to see what Mitchell Ludwig can do as the punt man. Meanwhile, like I said, Greg Stroman will be handling the kick return and punt return duties as of now. So looking at the year as a whole, Virginia Tech, is going to be playing in a division that is without the 2 giants in the ACC. Clemson and Florida State are the conference's 2 true contenders for national playoff spots at this point. And Virginia Tech does not play either of them, which is, I think, a huge relief, when you're coming into a new coaching staff. Not entirely new, of course, but when you have a new head coach taking over, having a schedule on the easier side, I think can very much help in the transition. So the toughest opponent Virginia Tech faces in the conference is considered by many to be the Coastal Division favorite, North Carolina, on the road. But this is a Virginia Tech team that could really, really win the division. I mean, it's just, there's so many teams that could win this division, between Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, of course, North Carolina being the ranked team of that bunch. But something tells me that this Fuente era is going to get off to a great start. He is running a spread offense where there are already such great personnel that can fit in with it right away, between the speed of Trayvon McMillan. Obviously, Isaiah Ford could fit into any offense. Cam Phillips, if he can get his hands together. And Bucky Hodges, is going to be in between the hashes and even be outside of that. A huge factor. And for continuity's sake, Bud Foster's defense is going to be a nightmare to game plan against. It always is. So I'm going to make a homer prediction. Call me sipping the Kool-Aid, but I believe that when all is said and done, Virginia Tech will win the Coastal Division and will be playing for the ACC Championship. So I am incredibly excited for this season, if you can't tell. Liberty tomorrow will be a great game to watch, because it'll be probably, what you could call Justin Fuente's only opportunity to really tinker and experiment with the roster in a truly competitive situation, because after that will be history being made, with Virginia Tech and Tennessee playing at Bristol Motor Speedway, which will be the most highly attended college football game of all time. So that'll be a nice little spectacle to enjoy. But, like I said, Hokie football, can't wait to see what happens. And I'm going to leave you on this note. For those who have passed, for those to come. Reach for excellence, and I hope that is what you do. Take care and have a great night.